What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck did I just watch? You are listening to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for joining us, and here's our latest episode. Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of just bears on coke and blood. And for the second part of our double feature that we've paired with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, see our previous month's podcast, please. We are doing Cocaine Bear. And basically the synopsis is after a 500-pound black bear consumes a significant amount of cocaine and embarks on a drug-fueled rampage, an eccentric gathering of cops, criminals, tourists, and teenagers assemble in a Georgia forest, which is true-ish of the movie, but doesn't actually explain it very well. But, whatever. I didn't write the synopsis, so it's fine.
Wait a minute. I thought I was coming here to do the second take on Blood and Honey. I got dressed up into my tracksuit and my slicked back my hair, and I got my cool glasses on. We're not doing Blood and Honey?
Cocaine Bear.
Oh, cocaine.
Right, yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah,
okay, I'm ready now.
There you
Let's go.
All right, Ray Liotta Jr. Okay. So, fun facts for those of you who don't know already, which I'm sure you've heard. Cocaine Bear is based very loosely on a true story. There was a load of cocaine dropped in the Georgia forest, and a bear did find it, and he consumed it. And then, much like any other creature that consumes tons and tons of cocaine, it died. That was it. There's no rampage. He ate the coke. He died, or she ate the coke. I can't remember. They didn't really talk about the bear's gender when you read the articles. But the fun thing was, so Andrew Carter Thornton II, who was U.S. Army paratrooper, who even earned a Purple Heart, turned drug smuggler. He grew up in Kentucky, and he had to crash the plane because it was overweighted, and he basically killed himself by overloading himself when he jumped from the plane with the cocaine bricks. And also apparently he had a penchant for trying to open his parachute at the last moment possible. So that combined with the added weight of the cocaine meant that he landed in somebody's driveway in Tennessee and smushed himself. So there's your fun facts really about, the real cocaine bear, and also known as Pablo Escobar for John Paul Bear. And right. John Paul, so you can see the stuffed version, the taxidermied version of Pablo Escobar, the actual bear that died from the cocaine overdose. He's in Kentucky now. You said he's in a trailer park. Is that right?
It's a trailer park museum from what I heard last, and I'm going to try to this summer go see it. And if it happens, I will post pictures on Facebook, and because it's just so ridiculous, the fact that they kept the stuffed cocaine bear. It's just so weird. I mean, and the fact that you gave the only facts and the truth about this movie, because everything else about this movie is made up, and it's made up in such a wonderful way, and directed by a wonderful actress and director. I mean, she Elizabeth Banks, she gets all the props, and she should get more props. That's the one thing that did kind of bother me when this movie came out. I mean, it's a more recent movie, but she's not getting enough credit for directing a mid-level budget movie like this, a hilarious movie like this. I mean, I did see an interview where after the trailer was dropped, she was being interviewed by Conan O'Brien, and Conan O'Brien was telling her about this amazing trailer of this silly movie, and he did not even know that she directed.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a Conan O'Brien funny joke. It was like he really had no clue and was quite embarrassed when she was like, yeah, I know, I directed it. And he was like, I mean, he even had to stop and because he's got a podcast himself, and look it up, and he's like, oh. And he got so red in the face. But it's I'm sorry, if if like Zack Snyder or somebody else would have directed this, they would have plastered their name on top of it.
Right.
It's like Zack Snyder presents Cocaine Bear.
Yeah.
This is I don't know. It kind of bothered me because I'm like, oh, give her credit because she did an amazing job with this.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic movie. It was so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I agree. She's very underrated as a director, and she's directed a couple other things, but the two that I'm familiar with is Pitch Perfect 2, which I thought was done
That movie's
excellently,
hilarious too.
and the 2019 Charlie's Angel, which I kind of liked and kind of didn't, but the directing was not the issue with that. It was, I
No,
thought it
Fair.
was well
the
directed,
script was
and
the problem with it.
Right.
yeah, I would say it's more a script issue that I had a problem with, but I thought that the directing was fine. Like the movies she does, they flow. They really have a nice steady stream. They don't break up well. You can seem like the actors are very cohesive and coherent in their roles. They know what they're supposed to be doing. There's no weird glitches that you see. I think she's an excellent director.
Yeah,
And
she knows how to pace like that.
Hmm.
That's the one thing I really. I mean, yeah, it's an hour and a half, but I mean, there's no real like lull in
Right.
any of this movie. It gives stuff time to breathe and just be absurd because it's absurd. It's like okay. I mean, even like how silly some scenes when the cocaine bear decides to get more cocaine just got me.
well, yeah, so as we stated earlier, the actual cocaine bear just died because that's what happens. But this cocaine bear gets a taste of it and then becomes an immediate addict. And and hunts the cocaine.
Right.
And woe be to you if you get in the way of it. And then, of course, as part of it, I loved the beginning. Okay, so where we first meet Cocaine Bear herself, you have these, I don't know, German, Swiss, Norwegian, something tourists
I
that are
think it's
hiking in.
Norwegian because I think
Thank you.
the one of those actors, if I remember right, was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That
So
was
I
in it.
apologize for not
Yeah.
knowing the difference in the accents, but it was something along those lines. And they have a moment where they're like feeling blessed of their luck in nature because they see this black bear and they it's rubbing itself against a tree like it's on ecstasy, and then its head banging its head against another tree trunk like it's demented, and it's just fucking hilarious.
Hmm.
It's wrong, and you're like, what is happening? And yeah, and then some of the most creative kills I've seen in a
Oh,
while.
for absolutely. And that's the balance when you do comedy horror is finding that fine line to thread both of those. And I thought this did a fantastic job. Like there were creative, violent deaths, but it was also very, very funny. And like you said, Jean Paul, the pacing was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Banks was able to sort of weave that story and not drag out the funny parts and not focus too much on the horrific aspects of it with all the violence.
The
It's just
McMurdering.
yes, it was like just this perfect line right between both aspects of it that made it so much fun.
So here's a question. We're all pretty much Gen X, and I don't know. I was a latchkey kid. Were you guys too?
Mm.
Did you find like there was a subtle commentary on that in there, like with the kids, like you have the one kid whose mom packed the lunch and had everything ready for her to go, but was out the door. So the kid just had to take, her stuff and throw it in the backpack and go. You had the other kid whose dad did none of that stuff. And
Oh
it
yeah,
was
absolutely.
they had no idea where he was. And I just thought all of it was kind of funny because it's just like, yeah, that's kind of this
Right?
variations. You either had a parent that like had everything set up and ready for you to go so that you can easily just do stuff, and you had another parent there if you were gonna have a lunch, you were fending for your damn self, get your shit together, packing it. So it's like each version of the latchkey kid for the most
Right.
part. Like,
Well, and that's also the what I thought was fun about this movie. Okay, because it's set in the 80s. And it very much felt like an 80s movie.
Hmm.
Like when when you think of like 80s movies, you've got movies like Stand By Me, you've got even when you think of horror You know, you think of the 80s miniseries, even though it wasn't set in the 80s at the
Mm-hmm.
time, but it's got that feel of exactly like you said. There's latchkey kids, these kids who can wander off, get in their bikes, go run and do adventures, just be home for supper or
Right.
whatever.
Oh, and be
And
smart enough to call your
yeah,
damn self off from school pretending to be your parent. That was the family.
exactly. It
You
had
could tell
all of
she was coddled because she didn't think of that. You know?
yeah, it had all of that kind of nostalgia and fun. I mean, aside
Right.
from like the soundtrack, which I was just like, this is a great song. I love this. I'm just jamming out the soundtrack. It was just, oh, it felt like it was made in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
um, with, you know, current special effects.
That's fair. Um, as far as like the 80s clothes, I thought it was hilarious that Carrie Russell, who plays like the final girl, basically. So there's all of these officers of the law and drug dealers armed to the teeth out there hunting this bear, being hunted by the bear, and she is wearing neon pink. Like is glowing in the forest, basically, and she's the one that makes it all the way to the credits. So I thought that was
And the two
hilarious.
kids. Let's not forget the two
Yeah,
kids.
absolutely.
Well,
You know, and
you can't murder kids in the 80s. Yeah, they have to stay alive no matter what.
Not according to the ABC after school specials.
I
They didn't
know, I know.
always make it.
I also really like the little like just funny nods, like when the beginning of this movie, you know, and they give you when they do attack, victims have higher probability of surviving and fighting back rather than submitting. That little nod, and then at the back at the bottom when it says sourced by Wikipedia.
Which does take you out of the 80s because
Yeah,
there was no
it
Wikipedia.
does. It does. But
right.
the fact that
There was barely an internet in the
they even
1980s.
did that, I was just like, where's this movie going? You know, where what is oh, and then I'm like, okay, I see where this is going.
Right.
Well, the tourists too, that whole debate, if it was black fight back, if it's brown lay down or something like that. And the other
Exactly.
tourist is like, is it brown or black though? It looks kind of brown. How do you which is kind of fair. I mean, but if you've seen them side by side, you can distinctly tell which one's the black bear. But if you just saw a black bear in the sunlight, it does kind of look like dark brown.
Right. And then they interlaid those news clips of what was real news clips with Tom Brokaw and all that stuff. And it just I'm like, man, it just brought you in, and
Right.
it's so entertaining.
It was. And I enjoyed the fact that it didn't try to be more than it was. It was just it's
Exactly.
a nice, simple story. There was a beginning, middle, and end, and that was it. There were no it wasn't trying to build itself into a cinematic universe or a trilogy or anything. It's like there's a good story here that can be fun if it's told the right way, and they push their product out, and that was it. And it was fantastic. It was such a fresh breath of air instead of going to the theater and say, all right, we have to map out, we're going to see this movie, but it relies on this and it hinges on the impact of this TV show that I was supposed to watch 3 months ago. It was just nice to be, grossed out and laugh my ass off and leave after 90 minutes. It was fantastic.
Perfect popcorn film, you know.
Yeah.
Big giant bucket of popcorn, soda, and just go to town and like, yep, this is fun. This is fun. You know,
Well, yeah.
just crazy mauling and like just yeah, but the first tourist when she gets just like mauled and then like the piece of the leg is just like
Yeah. Which is
flopping.
fun. It's subtle. They don't show her being
Yeah,
torn apart. You just
Right.
suddenly see a leg being
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. The first horse.
I was gonna say, like I could see where like studio meddling could have been, hey, let's make this a PG-13 movie.
Right.
And I'm so glad that they said, no, this is going to be violent. This is going to be fun. Similar to the Santa Claus one. Oh, I can't think of the name of it right now.
Violent Night.
Violent Night, exactly.
An
You
excellent movie
know,
as well.
yeah. again, studio meddling could have made those movies PG-13,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy that they're not. I'm happy that you get the crazy zany violence that I know I told Jenny this before, that like I know that Elizabeth Banks and James Gunn are close friends. And I know, like, I read that James Gunn like praised Elizabeth Banks for it. And she also said, thank you, because you taught me a lot
Right.
because of Slither, which is another fun and zany movie. That,
Absolutely, it is.
Another favorite of mine, yeah.
yeah. But again, I think this was better paced than Slither. And
Mhm.
obviously the influence goes with, like I said, the soundtrack of the zaniness that's happening, and you're just like, yeah, this is a good song. And this, like, even like the cameos that they get, like Aquafina just showing up as the paramedic driver. That whole sequence is
Completely unnecessary, totally fun.
Oh,
one of
yeah.
the best, funniest sequences
Exactly.
in
Like,
in
yeah.
in a long time, because it's so entertaining. I
But
mean,
it's funny because it's like, could the movie have been fine without this? Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
But should they take it out? Fuck no. That was
no.
amazing.
No.
Keep it in
Did
there.
it fit nicely and hilarious? Yes.
But yeah, and even the
Absolutely.
creativity, like the fun part about it is like it's you don't know where the kills are going to come from necessarily, and I love that about it. Like,
Yes.
I mean, like you expect the bear, but you don't know when to expect the bear, and then like, I mean, that whole scene leading up to the paramedics, even where like the bear is out there, and then the first kill that happens from it is because the ranger shoots the kid in the head by accident. So it's like a fun little play on like where is the kill actually going to come and when is it going to happen, and I love how they kept that kind of playful suspense throughout the whole movie. Like you know it's coming, but where exactly is it coming?
Right.
Yeah, and that just played all the way through that whole ambulance scene too, which was a wild ass ride.
Oh, for
And
sure.
and bears don't climb trees. I mean, right?
Right.
Right? They don't climb trees.
That I think
Yeah.
that very scene set the tone for the whole movie. Like when the body comes out of the tree, and then like the bear comes right after it. I'm like, okay, I now know what we're in for the next hour and 20 minutes, based purely on this death right here. You can see what's coming.
Led to it because you have the kid up the tree already, and
Oh
like
yeah.
the wildlife expert going, well, of course bears can climb trees, which yes, they can. In case you're confused about whether or not they really can or can't, they're very agile climbers. They're good at it.
Mhm.
And like, but the wildlife expert climbs a tree too, and the kid's like, well, then why are you up here then?
Right.
And the next thing you know, the bear's killing. That little kid just had me laughing throughout the whole thing. Just the
There's
interplay with
something
him.
about the foul mouth kid that just cracks me up. That kid in every movie.
Well, again, a lot of that was like, you think about it, that's the 80s,
Oh
Yeah, I was gonna
yeah.
say it's probably
That
because
goes
that
back
was me and
that,
my friends,
that goes
just
Right.
back
not
to
around
like
our
80s
parents because we would have
movies.
got our asses kicked. But
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
that scene at the beginning where both kids are like trying coke by eating it off of the knife. That was, and I could taste how bad their faces were. Like,
Mhm.
they're licking aspirin right
Yeah,
now.
they probably just gave him like flour to eat, and it was probably like,
Yeah.
bleh.
Powdered sugar.
Well, that would have tasted good, and they wouldn't have made the bad face. So I'm thinking they gave him like flour.
They're
Uh-huh.
acting.
No, they
Right.
probably gave those kids flour. It really looked like if it was anything, it was flour and baking soda is what they probably gave him.
Oh
Oh,
God. Oh.
ah,
I mean, not that I play. It's just when you look at the texture and the consistency, it kind of looks like flour and baking soda. But not that I've
Hmm.
ever seen Coke. Maybe they actually gave the kids Coke.
movie
But
magic. That's what we have to say.
Yeah, it was all
Movie magic.
CGI.
I
It's
also
all
like how they like
movie
made it
magic.
real apparent that they didn't keep much of it in their mouth, despite the huge like.
Right.
So like it gave you this bit of realism that in the sense that yes, if they had eaten the whole pile like they foot on the knife, they would
They
have
would have
probably
died
OD'd and died
themselves.
too.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
fact that they just like spit out half of it is part of it, well, more than half, I would say probably 3/4 of it, kind of like kept a little bit of realism in a very unreal story.
Hmm.
But the fact that they didn't seem stoned at all seemed very unreal. Like there should have been a bit of a "Ooh, look at the colors." So,
And
but go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and then like the cast is so fucking entertaining in this
Oh,
movie.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I am a fan of O'Shea Jackson Jr. I mean he is basically his father, Ice Cube, and but all the stuff that he like all the roles, even the role where he plays his father in Straight Outta Compton, which I think is hilarious, that he ends up playing his father in that movie. Everything else I've seen him in, I'm like, man, this guy's really, really good. And in this movie, especially, the way he's just like the straight man to the zaniness that is everything else around him.
Right.
Like the bathroom scene alone, also when he finally loses his shit on those thugs. I don't
Oh,
know.
dude, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I first off, I have to shout out. So it was a pretty diverse cast, and we're a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of times when you have diversity, it's because they have just the thugs being the minorities and stuff like that. You had a bit of a mix. You had, one of the cops was a minority. Well, both the cops were minorities. Then you had,
Hmm.
one of the dealers, drug deal with a drug gang, the Kentucky Mafia or whatever you want to call it, being, minority, and the other two were white. But the thugs, the street thugs, were three white kids. And I thought this is so funny for like the South and like suburbs, because that's kind of what it was like if you were in a suburb, like in a wealthier suburb for sure. I mean, the ones I grew up in, it was a nice mix of people. But you just had these basically white boys running around pretending that they were thugs and tough and stuff, and most of them couldn't stand in a real fight. And so I thought that was a funny little throw in there. I don't know if she did it purposely or if casting did it purposely, but it was super funny to me. Like their thug life was stealing candy and popping open a box, and threatening poor hikers with a pocket
Right.
knife.
Yeah. They're thugs of a forest,
That's
you
right.
know?
They're
So
thugs of a forest. I'm
Just
gonna steal that picnic basket.
and then got their
Hey, boo
asses
boo.
thoroughly kicked when they ran into somebody who actually was.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was just such a great scene. I loved that.
Like the whole look on his face and everything when he's like, really? Okay.
Right?
And good old young Han Solo. People gave that actor a bad rap. Island? Oh, what is his name? I can't
Oh,
pronounce it.
Alden I Heinrich or something like that.
Enric or something like that. Yeah, the bad rap he got. He is so great in this movie
Oh yeah, for sure.
because you feel for him. That's the thing. You really feel for him. It's like the beginning of just like losing. Was it his wife or a girlfriend? I
I
don't
think
think that was.
it was supposed to be his wife, if I
I
recall
mean, I don't know
correctly,
if that
but
was completely clear
regardless, it was
because
his partner.
it was his
So
Right.
partner. Yeah, because there is a child, so I don't want to assume anything. But just I don't know. He does such a great job in this movie.
Well,
Ray
and
Liotta and his parents slash
Yeah,
grandparenting skills, character skills, and that
yeah,
right.
it's hilarious. It's like he hasn't picked up his kid yet. Ah, that's great, kid.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, Ray Liotta. I mean, this is probably his last role, but I mean,
I know,
always a
I'm torn.
gangster, always a gangster gonna die a gangster.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he
I
does excellent, and like this is a fun movie, but like of all the movies he could have gone out on, this is probably not the best
right.
swan song to have.
I think
But
it's hilarious. I think it's
well, it's
perfect.
hilarious, but in a way, it kind of makes you go, "Oh, poor Ray. This is going
It
to be the last movie here." No,
it says
Again,
a
again.
lot about his talent, where you're rooting for a CGI bear over him at the end.
Yeah,
You're that not a lot of actors can pull off that level of scumbag, but he just nailed it. He
But
nailed it.
again, from Goodfellas to this, and not a bad way to go.
No, absolutely.
Because he
I
had some
mean,
stinkers in the in between.
he could
Right?
have died with Hubie's Halloween being his last film. So I mean, really, this is better than
Yeah,
that. But
evil
but
times
yeah,
tonight. But yeah, I don't know. Top-notch movie. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm trying to like dance around not giving any spoilers because I think people should either go see it in the theaters or it's on demand now. It's
Right.
available.
we did obviously give some spoilers, but
Yeah,
what we
Right.
say and what you watch is going to be two different things. Like
yeah.
you really have to experience the
Oh,
zaniness on your own.
well, and there's practically a reunion of the Americans from
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
Fox TV show too.
That's what got me because I'm like right at the beginning. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the husband from the Americans, and
And
I'm
he's in
like,
the movie for like 12
I
seconds.
know, and then I'm like in my head, I'm like, I know Carrie Russell's also in this movie.
Right?
Well, we'll see somebody else from the Americans.
Ta-da! Yes,
Ta-da!
you do.
Yes, you do. So yeah, it was a great reunion from the Americans. A great show, but yeah. So yeah, that's why I thought it was like, oh, okay, I see. You know, Kerry Russell said, "Hey, husband,
Right.
I'm in
So
this movie, and
was
we need a part."
Jenny, were you telling me the story about how Matthew Rice got involved in it, or was I think maybe I read an article about it that
I think you read an article.
Elizabeth Banks reached out to Kerry Russell. It was like, they're friends in real life. Like, I really want you to be in this movie. It's a fun role, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, absolutely. That sounds like a blast. And when he caught wind of it, he's like, whoa, I want in on this too. It's like,
Oh,
just
awesome!
find me a role. So he, again, he's in it for like that long, but he just wanted to hang out and see what was going on and check it out.
That's
It's epic in
hilarious.
those few minutes, to be honest.
Oh, it
It
Like
was
is.
so
it's
fucking funny,
well done. Ridiculous and well done. You're like,
right?
and I would just say the set dressing was amazing too. Like everything down to like the bags that the cocaine was in, but my personal opinion, I don't think an actual cocaine smuggler would have chosen those bags, but they were completely 80s. So I admire them for that. But
Mhm.
the clothing, the makeup, the jewelry, the makeup, even like down to the little girl coloring her tennis shoes, when she was sitting in her room, her room set up. I mean, it was so well done. Like you like really felt like you were back in your childhood. It's
Right.
a little disturbing, only I didn't grow up in the country, but you know what I mean? But you're like, oh, look at those posters. Oh, she's coloring her Converse. She's
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Elizabeth Banks, she's Gen X, I think.
yeah, it's just
So
Mhm.
roughly my
so
age, I think.
yeah, she grew up. So yeah, she knew the time. She knew what was up. I'm gonna put a
Right.
little
Yeah,
Billy Idol, some In Excess posters,
she,
Right.
she's got
And
like a
you,
year
some
on me,
Adam
so she's a little
Ant.
older.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you brought up the soundtrack a couple times, Jean Paul. That's Mark Mothersbaugh of Devo put together the soundtrack for that movie.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So yeah,
That makes sense.
absolutely. Bring in an expert in 80s
Right.
techno sound.
Yeah. Like I said, it's such an entertaining soundtrack. Again, what makes everything just flow great with the movie. There's just start to finish, it's just fun.
Mhm. It is. It's a
Yeah.
blast.
I mean, it, it's one of those movies that if you know somebody who's not a fan of horror but can take like horror
A little
comedies
bore.
and a little go like Shaun of the Dead or Cabin in the Woods, this is on par with all of those, you know?
I took somebody that cannot do any gore.
Oh, okay.
However, it was the Studio 35 beer tasting.
Oh, then they're even better.
So yeah, we had 2 hours to loosen up and drink ourselves numb for the for the blood and gore.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it wasn't any poo, blood, and honey,
Thank God.
But
but
what
but
is?
but
What
what
is?
is
You can only
exactly?
have one Citizen Kane, otherwise.
That's right. yeah.
Oh, no. Let's put it this way. John Paul, my good friend, has it so that I can watch Blue Blood and Honey anytime I want at no expense to me. And as I said earlier, I would insist that you pay me money before I watch that movie ever again.
Right.
Or a lot of alcohol has to be, and I'm trying to torture somebody else. That's the only way it would happen.
Well,
A combination, whatever. But
I mean, it
Cocaine
did get
Bear, I
it.
paid to see twice. So, once the beer tasting and once I went to go see with a friend who wanted to see it. So see if that means anything to you about whether or not you go see Cocaine Bear. But
I'd pay to go see Cocaine Bear again. Absolutely, I would. And not even
Again,
with 2 hours of drinking beforehand. I'll go right now. Let's go watch it. I'll
I
call in
mean,
sick tomorrow.
again, it's in the theaters. You can watch it on demand right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely worth a watch.
you definitely need your bucket of popcorn and your alcoholic beverage of choice. I mean, you don't necessarily need alcohol, but whatever makes you feel good when you're watching movies for those people that are, on the sober path.
Popcorn.
But popcorn, yes, and like a
Mm-hmm.
good happy drink. And it is a cocaine fueled ride. And it feels that way in a sense, like you just feel the art. And it's almost funny because like when things get a little calm, it's about when the cocaine bear always comes out to find some more cocaine. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then it fuels
Which,
back up, and then it gets a little crazy, it calms down a little.
but it was just so perfect. He would just pop in and out,
Right.
because yeah, this movie could have gone in a completely like just serious direction, and it would have turned into not entertaining. It
Right.
knew what it wanted to be, and it did a great job with it.
Which
So
I think is, to compare back to the first of our double feature, this succeeded where that failed because I don't think they knew
contrast,
what they wanted at. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
contrast.
I think Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey meant to be a serious horror film, but then they did a plot that was a joke, and they did
Yeah.
scenes that was a joke. So it didn't work well at all. I mean, there's other flaws too, don't get me wrong, where this one was like, this is going to be a joke and it's fucking funny.
Right. Well, and to compare and contrast, Cocaine Bear had a budget with a very, very talented cast.
Yes.
You have a top-notch director, and you don't have Disney breathing down your neck, ready to sue you at a moment's notice if you do anything that resembles anything they've ever recorded.
That is true.
So,
That is true.
people
That is
since we
fair.
did the last podcast, people have been asking, should I go see Blood and Honey? I said, absolutely not. But I'll be first in line to see the sequel. Absolutely.
I mean,
with
yes, but it will be like the same circumstances we saw the first one. And we're going to pregame. We're going to go with the people.
You just described every movie. Where you walk into the bar next door and say, I would like the right-hand column of your house
That might be every
cocktails,
movie
please.
for you. It is not for me. This one would be a necessity for me, but yeah.
You should try it. I'm telling you.
Cocaine Bear, bouncing here and everywhere. I am a cocaine bear. Not Disney. Not Disney.
Fantastic.
It's a new song. It's a parody.
It's not Disney. Yeah. A little short summary and not full development of. So Pablo Escobar had quite a lot of adventure after it was killed and stuffed, or after it died and was stuffed. Like it started out in Georgia where they did the autopsy or necropsy. Sorry, necropsy. It's an animal, not a person, so not an autopsy. And I believe the coroner at the place, and you guys can fact check me on this because this is just a memory. So, was into taxidermy. So he taxidermied the bear, and it like ended up at some point, like I think that guy died and it got bought and it ended up in Vegas at one point, and that guy died and it got auctioned off and it ended up in California, I think, at that point. So another guy who collected it for a while, whose wife hated it, and when he died, she first kept it and then was like somebody reached out to her. I think it was Kentucky, their tourist bureau or something, because Kentucky felt this was part of their legacy because of the Kentucky drug cartel that was there. It just sounds very weird coming from the Kentucky drug cartel.
Oh, I just looked
Was
it
it a
up again.
backwards something? I don't know. But go ahead.
He's moved again. Cocaine Bear now.
As I say, he came in, they put him in the fun mall, which I think is where you thought he was.
Yeah, he is now currently at a place called KY for KY store, which is the official store of Kentucky,
Hmm.
which is a novelty fun store. It's a souvenir store. And that is currently where he got moved to.
I'm so confused by that name because KY makes me think a certain way. And
Yes,
then when they
exactly.
add novelty
Yes.
fun store, now I'm thinking it's a sex toy shop, which
It's
doesn't seem
not
right.
though. It's not, but he's there. And if he's still there this summer, I'm gonna go see him. Yeah,
Okay.
I have found it.
I'm gonna go on the record and say I want 0 souvenirs from your road trip to the KY store. They make a
I'm a little
terrible
surprised
breakfast
now. What if
spread.
it
Kentucky
has
for
honey?
Kentucky.
I'm
That
like, what
is
if
the
there's honey though?
That's
Kentucky.
different. That's
Here
different.
it is though. Here's the kicker of it. The official website of this store, KY4KY.com. And if you pull up their first page, it
Pull up
has
or pull out.
Cocaine Bear on the cover.
Nice.
Which behind me is Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar.
So yeah. So
So
I don't know what else to add without really giving away the whole movie, which is nothing to give away. But if we give you all the fun things, and you're gonna be like, why am I watching the
Right.
movie? And you should go watch the movie for many reasons. Great cast, great acting, great directing. Support Elizabeth Banks as a director because apparently people aren't aware that
definitely,
she is one. Um,
definitely.
go to a movie theater with good popcorn, which means avoid AMC, in my opinion. But you got a local independent theater, go hit that if it's playing at it. Um,
Yes.
if you ever have the opportunity for movies like this at a beer tasting, if you live in Columbus, especially check out Studio 35 and Grandview Theater. They have amazing beer tastings paired with movies.
Not
You'll
sponsored,
definitely have
but
a fun
please,
time.
if you want to sponsor us, Mr. Pickle, not a problem.
April 23rd is Bridesmaids at Studio 35.
Not sponsored, but it's okay, Mr. Pickle. You can sponsor us. We'll
Yeah,
hawk your wares.
for those of you who are unaware, just in case you think John Paul has an affection for pickles or something like that, Mr. Pickles is the mascot for Studio 35, and he's a little special, much like the whole venue is, which is why you should go there.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I don't know. Anything else to add?
No, it's great. It's a fun movie, and I recommend it to everybody. Take your kids; they'll love it.
Define the age of kids to take to.
12 and up.
Okay, I'll
I
allow
mean, we're
it.
Gen X, so we're like, if they
I
can
Right?
watch
I
something,
know,
Absolutely.
but I'm also Gen X now that realizes when I went and saw Scream 7 and I saw 7 and 8-year-olds at this movie. I
Right.
now
said,
you're just an
get
old man.
out.
Well, as Gen
This
Xers too,
isn't
by the time we were
TV.
12, we had fought our own first bear.
That's
It
true.
might have been a cub, but you had been exposed to it by then.
That's right.
So it's fair. But no,
We climbed the
everybody should watch
mountain.
this movie. It's so
Yes.
fun.
I got
I
nothing else. I mean, it's an
Yeah,
enjoyable movie. Love the
Hmm.
cast. I again, Elizabeth Banks, please direct more movies because you
Absolutely.
do a great job. And I have to commend Elizabeth Banks. So
Hmm.
agreed. Huge fan.
yeah.
Acting and directing. Yeah, do more, please, Elizabeth.
Yep.
Yeah. So with that, I know this is a short one, guys, but I mean, it's a fun movie. Go see it, and thank God because I don't think I could have handled another terrible movie after Who, Blood, and Honey. That was a lot, but yeah, Cocaine Bear was a surprisingly fun time and just well done, so well done. So I'm
So, question for the what the fuck show? What do you guys have in the kitty? What episodes are coming up in the near future?
we're hoping to discuss the menu with a friend of mine next month, and
Oh,
Yeah.
We're,
And
we're
John
hoping
Paul,
to also discuss Amadeus, Rock Me Amadeus.
with one of
Wow.
John Paul's friends. And then, of course, at some point, Mike, we're going to schedule our crossover with Bum's Corner Coast to Coast to talk about Short Circuit, right?
Yep,
Because
we
Johnny
just talked
Five
about that.
is alive.
Yep, we just talked about that. We recorded Saturday, so I brought that up again. I said, "Be ready."
And Mike, please plug away your stuff too, because you know we haven't given you
Oh
your plugs.
yeah.
Plug
So
away.
I plug away. So I am the co-host of Bum's Corner Coast to Coast. It's a sort of a retrospective look at a friend of mine lives out in California. We get together and talk about people's horrible life choices. This month we focused on a guy that lights his car on fire to keep it from being stolen, and a fellow that stuck around after holding up a bank to see what happens after the alarm is pulled. So, it makes us feel better about our choices by shitting on other people.
Well, thank you, because now I feel much better about my life just hearing
I
that
feel so much
synopsis.
better
So
about
thank
my
you.
Right?
life.
See, my work here is done.
I mean, with the crazy news I got last week, I feel so much better about my life now. So yeah,
Apparently, I make good choices. Who knew?
who knew?
Right? See?
Okay, well, with that, this has been What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? I'm Jenny.
John Paul.
And I'm Mike Eshelman.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Hope we didn't hurt your brains too much with this one.
You have been listening to
What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again soon.